past 6 o'clock. Nothing. I was just saying we're past 6 o'clock. Y'all could talk. Good to have you all here tonight. I appreciate you coming out. Everybody get a prayer sheet thing? I think there's some back there. There might be one or two still up here. Anybody else? Okay. Well, let's start with a word of prayer, and we'll get into our study tonight. Father God, we are grateful for how you continue to lead and guide and direct us, how you continue to watch over us all the time, Lord. Father, thank you for the weather that we've had. I know we oftentimes complain when it's not to our liking. But it's been really nice the last couple of days, and we thank you for that as well. And Father, as we look back at Psalm 101 again tonight, Father, help us to get out of this what we need in order to live our lives more acceptable to where you want us to be on a daily basis. In your name we pray. Amen. All righty. How about if I turn my phone to silent before we go much farther? There we go. I usually do that ahead of time, and I was running late, so I didn't get to do that. There's a scene in the movie Titanic that demonstrates the difference between administration and leadership. And the scene is with Tom and Andrews, who was the builder and the designer of the ship. And he's just learned that the Titanic is about to sink. And he's just now discovering, maybe for the first time, the kind of team that he's assembled to take this great vessel on its maiden voyage. And with only a few exceptions, they proved themselves to be incompetent, cowardly, and self-serving. For example, the captain, he's been told that there's an iceberg in their path, and he chooses to ignore the warning. Bruce Ismay, the ship line's managing director, urges the captain to continue at full speed ahead in spite of the danger so that they can arrive in New York ahead of schedule, and that way he can look like a hero. His bad advice certainly contributed to the disaster. And yet, while hundreds of women and children were dying, he managed to find his way into a lifeboat. In fact, more than 50% of the Titanic's navigation officers survived the shipwreck. The majority of the passengers didn't survive. Anyway, here's the scene. Thomas Andrews is now aware that the ship will surely sink later that night. He's standing alone in the ballroom, staring at a clock on the For the last few weeks, we've been looking conversations and even toxic relationship with those who really add nothing good to our lives. Tonight I want us to look at and talk about some of the non-toxic elements that we can find. Life-affirming, life-defining, life-building priorities that we need to add at every opportunity that we can. There are three that we're going to look at tonight as we consider the question, what do I want my life to be about? Here are three priorities that we need to pursue. First of all, we need to be able to say, I will surround myself with the best people I know. Leadership books often talk about the leader's obligation to use their influence well, to be a positive influence in the lives of those that they lead. But here's something that every leader needs to consider. Before you think about how you're influencing others, you need to think about who it is that's influencing you. Before you begin to measure your influence, make it a point to measure your influences or influencers, depending on how you want to look at that. Because the truth is, we're all influenced by someone or several someones. And their influence works either for us or against us. I've heard it said that every person is the average of the 5 people that they spend the most time with. I don't know how accurate that idea really is, because influence doesn't always come down to the number of hours and minutes that you spend with someone. It's more accurate to say that you are the average of the 5 people who receive the majority of your attention. These are the people that you most often think about, the people whose opinion matters most to you, and the people with whom you want to fit in with. I suppose we could even go so far as to say that ultimately you will be most like the people that you like the most. And that's why we need to pick our friends and our role models and our influences with such care. People have more influence on us than we often realize. There was a study published in a science journal that confirmed that merely watching someone shiver can cause you to feel colder. The same study confirmed that simply watching someone place their hand in a bowl of ice water can actually affect the temperature of your own hand by as much as 0.4 of a degree. And of course, we don't need a study to confirm that simply watching someone eat can make us hungry. Or watching someone yawn will make us yawn. Now I'm going to watch and see how many of you yawn because I mentioned it. This is how we're influenced by others and by what others do. And this is why we need to make sure that we surround ourselves with those who have a healthy, uplifting outlook on life. Even if we aren't able to spend as much time with them as we would like, we need to let these good people be the ones who influence what we say and what we do. Listen to what David says in Psalm 101, verse 6. Again, this is out of the Holman initially. It says, "My eyes favor the faithful of the land, so that they may sit down with me. The one who follows the way of integrity may serve me." Now, let me read this out of the Contemporary English Version. It says, "I will find trustworthy people to serve as my advisors. Only an honest person will serve as an official." That makes a little more sense than that first one. He's saying, this is who I will spend my time with, and this is who I will work with. We don't always get to decide who we have to work with or who we spend time with. But we do get to choose whose attitude will shape our own outlook on life. This applies to who we follow on social media, whose books we read, and whose podcasts we listen to. It also applies to who we go to dinner with and watch games with and pass our spare time with. As much as it's possible, we need to surround ourselves with those whose attitudes reflect the attitude that we want to bring to other people. Influence doesn't always come down to the hours and the minutes that you spend with someone. It does come down to the authority and credibility that you give to others. We need to choose well, and we need to surround ourselves with the best, because the influence of others helps us to pursue the next priority that I want to bring to your attention. We need to be able to say, I will make the world a better place. Now, that may actually sound like something that a contestant for Miss America would probably say, but it's the mission that God has laid out for each one of us. That's what we all should want. And here's how this mission played out for David. As king of Israel, he was also the chief magistrate. And it was his job to administer justice each day in a court session that was held near the city gates. And here, in his statement purpose, he declares that he will do his job. And he declares it rather forcefully, especially in the King James Version. Look at verse 8 and what it says. This is in the King James. It says, "Every morning I will destroy all the wicked of the land, eliminating all the evildoers from the Lord's city." Destroying the wicked sounds a little brutal, doesn't it? But actually the word destroy can be translated more accurately to silencing. As in, I will silence the wicked. It can even be translated that I will set aside the wicked. In fact, the New Living Translation says it this way: "My daily task will be to ferret out the wicked and free the city of the Lord from their grip." Now, remember, David wrote this psalm many years before he actually became king. He wrote this psalm after seeing all that Saul was doing wrong in leading the people as the king. So David is saying, in effect, I'm going to ensure that the law has set its course against the lawless. I'm not going to allow the innocent to live in fear while the guilty run free. I will be diligent in bringing reform to the nation. That was David's way of doing his job. And by doing it, he was making the world a better place. Now, you and I, we're not the king. We aren't the chief justice. And we don't hold court every day. It may feel like it sometimes. But we do have a job to do and a calling to pursue. And our faithfulness to this task can make our little corner of the world a better place. Bill Haber used to be one of the most powerful men in Hollywood. For 30 years, he and two other men started and ran Creative Artists Agency. It was a talent agency that could make or break the careers of movie stars. And he did his job very well. Then in 1995, when his two partners at Creative Arts left to run major studios, Haber decided to take on a new job as well. Not in Hollywood, but with an international relief organization called Save the Children. He spent the final years of his professional life supervising over 4,000 employees in 41 countries. He left behind the glitz and the glamour of Hollywood for the day-in, day-out realities of starving kids. Now, why in the world would he make such a drastic change? He said simply, "You only live once, and I wanted to work with children." He realized that wealth and power weren't all that they were cracked up to be. And when confronted with the chance to make a lasting difference in people's lives, in children's lives, he decided that he couldn't let the opportunity pass. Amazingly, Haber said that nobody in Hollywood called him crazy for doing what he did. In fact, he said many of his movie business friends said, "I wish I could do that too." That's because many times people who have experienced the most success are often the first ones to realize that success alone is never enough. Doing what Bill Haber did isn't nearly as hard as it might seem. Now, you may not have the chance to be the CEO of an international organization, but you can sponsor a child through a variety of nonprofit organizations like World Vision or Compassion International. You can also find ways to help those who are in need right around you. You can give a car ride or make a call or send a card to someone that you know. And this small effort can lead to something much greater than a career. It can lead to the discovery of your mission. Or it can lead to making a huge positive impact on the life of someone who needs to feel the love of Christ in their lives. What if you were to begin tomorrow morning by saying, "Today I will make the world a better place for someone. I will bring a moment of joy or encouragement or comfort into someone's life. I'm not going to be that toxic person who talks bad about others and practices deceit. Instead, I will be above reproach in my dealings with others, just as those whose influence I see also above reproach." I think I know most of y'all that are sitting out there tonight well enough to know that each one of us would like to make the world a better place. I think if I asked every one of you, you would say, "Well, yeah." Nearly everyone wants to make the world a better place, at least in theory. But King David includes one key phrase. In verse 8, he says something that makes all the difference in the world for those who have good intentions. So what does he say? Let me read that verse again. Verse 8. This is from the Contemporary English Version. It says, "My daily task will be to ferret out the wicked and free the city of the Lord from their grip." And that key phrase in there is my daily task. He wanted to do these things on a daily basis. I think King David woke up every day and said to himself, today, I want to do something that is going to make the world a better place. And we need to do that as well. And that leads us to the next priority that we need to pursue. We each need to say, I will pursue my purpose each and every day. Now, we're back to the same territory that we covered earlier in this series, in which I talked about building our lives on a foundation of praise, and I talked about the importance of making our relationship with God a morning by morning daily priority. For any lasting change to take place in our lives, for any significant impact to be made, it must be a daily endeavor. Earlier tonight, I was saying that you are the average of the 5 people who matter most to you. Here's another truth to consider. You are the average of the actions that you take every day. If every day you spend the day sitting in a chair eating pizza and ice cream and binge watching Netflix, your life will reflect the average of that behavior. On the other hand, if every day you get out and walk and you keep yourself busy and you do good for others, your life will reflect the average of that behavior as well. That applies to how you spend your time and what you watch and read and how you speak to those who are around you. Of all the actions that you take during the day, your life will average out to the most frequently repeated actions. That could be scary, couldn't it? But that's why living your life on purpose must be a daily endeavor. Because as author Annie Dillard has said, how we spend our days is how we spend our lives. So this is the question you should ask yourself tomorrow. What will I do today to make my life the best that it can be? The Titanic story remains compelling after all these years because of the tragedy that it represents. Not only the lives lost, but the arrogance involved in its destruction. The greatest of all ships turned into the greatest disasters because a few men in leadership dropped the ball on their obligation to do what was right. It doesn't do any good to be labeled the best if you're not willing to do your best. And in this sense, we need to be obsessed with the idea of doing everything in the best way possible. We need to ask ourselves, to whom should I give authority in the way that I live my life? Who are the best people that I can bring into my circle? Which are the best objectives that I can pursue? Not just to make the world a better place for me, but to make the world a better place for others. And how can I pursue that priority today? Psalm 101 is David's manifesto. It offers a good guideline to follow as we make our own choices about what we want our lives to be from this point forward. We each have a doctrine that we live by. Some folks never write it out word for word and read it to themselves every morning. But we each have a personal purpose statement. I'll look out for number one. I'll always take the easy way. I'll never correct my course. Or I will do the most good that I possibly can. I will put others first. I will seek to glorify God in all that I say and all that I do. We each have a belief that shapes the direction of our lives, the direction of every day that we live. Let's do our best to follow David's example and to make our statement of purpose as clearly defined as it can be. That this is what my life is about. This is what I stand for. This is what I stand against. This is what I will do, and this is what I will never do. So let's create a doctrine for ourselves on purpose so that we can live our lives with purpose. And let's make this statement of belief not only a lifelong objective, but a daily endeavor. Take out your prayer sheets, if you would. First one on there, Don Hale. That's Mike Hale's father. If you're on the call-out list, you get the prayer requests that we send out. You saw that earlier. He is not responsive at all. I think he had a massive stroke, and so they're just having to wait at this point. But it does not look very promising as of now. No, he is not. Or he wasn't this morning. They may have, but I don't think they figured there's anything that, I think somebody's come in, but you can look down and see the other things that are on there. I also had a note here. Rocky Northern, that is Karen's nephew, has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. So if you'd add him to your lists as well. And then or other do we need to add to our list? Yes, ma'am. So an oncologist there at MDA, or and he'll take her even with her insurance issues? Yeah. Okay. 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 And that's Carol Stanton. She's under the first. They're under 226. She wasn't added last week, but we updated some things, and so she got the little asterisk and got moved up, because as we update folks, then I move them up the list as well. So those that are a little farther down that have asterisks on them, we just haven't added anything to those recently, which is why they've not moved up either. So, hope that makes sense. Yes, yes. Okay. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Jimmy? Forel? Okay. And may have to go on dialysis? Okay.
I'd like to add myself. I went down Monday to schedule cataract surgery, and as it happens, I have to have my cornea scrubbed before they can schedule the cataract surgery. So I have to do that Monday.
Okay.
No idea actually what that entails.
What that entails? Doesn't necessarily sound pleasant, though, does it?
He said it would not be pleasant. Would not be what? Pleasant. Dr. Calvin, he was there this morning.
And so, will they do the cataract surgery right after that, or then they have to wait a while?
I'll have to probably wait a month,
Okay.
because that, he said they put a contact over it for it to heal, and then that probably takes about a month, that's what he said.
Okay. Yes. Janice Lee. Okay. Anything else? Okay, that's Gail Addison under 2.5. She's going to have surgery Tuesday.
Are they removed?
Okay. Yes, sir.
My brother went to Indianapolis this last weekend, trying to help my sister out with a couple projects that he did end up getting to do, and then to add to the trouble, my sister's being treated for throat cancer.
Okay? Yes. Where are you at on here? There you are. Okay. Take Delilah off. And we'll take John Hart off. Anything else? Okay. Do you know her mom's name? Okay, that's fine. Okay. Yes. Good. Gary Shepard, we can take off. Again, I thought she was on there. I don't even see her on there. Okay. Yeah, and I mean he's down in the nursing home with end of life watch as yeah. Okay. Anything else? All right. Then let's go to the Lord in prayer. As you feel led to pray out loud, I ask you to go ahead and do that. And then here in just a little while, Kendall, would you mind closing us out in prayer, please? Thank you.